Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. Today, the show is about the journey of self-discovery. And to discuss this in greater depth, we have here a friend of ours, Eduardo Guimarães. He's the president and founder of the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society in New York City. And he's going to be here with us telling us much more about how Spiritism can help us in this self-discovery and why it is important as well. He has a lot to share with us, and we hope you're going to enjoy. And if you have questions for him, you can call us live at 858-769-4705. We have people who have been emailing us, telling us that they have tried calling this number after hours. Actually, this number is only for the live programs. If you want to call us during the time in which we don't have the live programs, only the on-demand programs, you can call us directly at 410-382-5328 and talk to us directly, or keep sending us your emails at kardecradio@gmail.com or kardec@kardecradio.com. Or also at kardecradio.com website, we have a contact form. You fill it out, and we're going to be glad to answer to your questions. We have a beautiful program today. You're going to listen to Andre Luiz, the spirit doctor who brought lots of books, messages through the medium Chico Xavier. He is going to tell us about the 10 Commandments for self-improvement. We're also going to listen to a beautiful case from the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. It's about emotions in the afterlife and much more, with the segments with Kirsten de Mello on the law of preservation, self-preservation and suicide. Then Luis Sergio Maroda is going to talk about a feature on the Gospel according to Spiritism in his beautiful segment, Spiritism and the Gospel. Also, we have a segment dedicated to depression and adolescence, put together by our friends in Canada, our dear Marco Magalhães and our Dr. Joyce Magalhães. And then at the very end of the program, teaching parents how to teach joy in tough times to their kids with Bernadette Leal from California. And always at the end of the program, you're going to see us, listen to us, so we pray together. Always. The Gospel according to Spiritism has a lot to teach us regarding the preparation for prayer. Because as you know, Allan Kardec, when he published the first book, the Spirit's book, he told us about the importance of self-discovery. In one of the questions and answers, he asked the spirits, what's the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? And the answer is very to the point and straightforward. A sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself. What does that mean? What is the correlation between self-knowledge and self-improvement? Self-knowledge and resistance to wrongdoing. How those things correlate themselves. That's why we have here at Kardec Radio, this very program, the company of Eduardo Guimarães, who is going to lead us into a greater understanding of how it happens, because he has been leading discussions and study sessions in the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society on this very topic, self-discovery, based on the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's fascinating, and we have a lot to learn. It really helps us get to higher levels of understanding. For now, before we go to the first break, we want to remind you that our sister radio, Bezerra Online Web Radio, located in Miami, Florida, led by our dear friend Luis Salazar, is there 24 hours on demand Web Radio Bezerra Online is there at spiritist.com. Get to know about it because they have programs in English, Portuguese, and in Spanish. And they are streaming Kardec radio shows every day, 3 times a day. All you have to do is log on and listen to Web Radio Bezerra Online and rejoice because, after all, we are all here to nourish your soul. Listen to this beautiful excerpt on the segment that has been put together by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard. They are here to help you listen to the Spirit's book because we know life is so demanding. Sometimes people say, I don't have time to read. Don't worry, because here we have the Spirit's book firsthand to you. Questions 1 to 9. Listen to it, go to the break, and when we come back, Eduardo Guimarães is here to help us understand more about the journey of self-discovery.
The Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec. Chapter 1. God. Question number 1. What is God? Answer.
God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things.
Question number 2. What is meant by the infinite? Answer.
That which has neither beginning nor end, the unknown. All which is unknown is infinite.
Question number 3. Could we say that God is the infinite? Answer.
That would be an incomplete definition. Human speech is too impoverished and insufficient to define that which transcends human intelligence.
Author's remarks for question number 3. God is infinite in divine perfection, but the infinite itself is an abstract concept. Thus, to say that God is the infinite is to replace the thing itself with one of its attributes. It is to define something that is unknown by referring to something else that is equally unknown. Proofs of the existence of God. Question number 4. Where may we find proof for the existence of God? Answer.
In an axiom you apply to all your sciences, there is no effect without a cause. If you would search for the cause of whatever is not the work of human beings, then reason will answer your question.
Author's remarks for question number 4. To believe in God, we need only to behold the works of creation. The universe exists, therefore it must have a cause. To doubt God's existence would be to deny that every effect has a cause, and to believe that something could have resulted from nothingness. Question number 5. All human beings have within them the intuitive sentiment of God's existence. What can we conclude from this? Answer.
That God exists. Otherwise, where would such a sentiment come from if it were not based on something real? This is an application of the principle that there is no effect without a cause.
Question number 6. Mightn't our inner sentiment about the existence of God be the result of education and the product of acquired ideas? Answer.
If that were the case, why would members of your primitive cultures have this intuition?
Author's remarks for question number 6. If the sentiment of the existence of a supreme being were only the product of education, it would not be universal. Like all scientific ideas, it would only exist in the minds of those who receive such education. Question number 7. Could we find the first cause of the formation of things in the innermost properties of matter? Answer.
Even if you could, what in turn would be the cause of those properties? There must always be a first cause.
Author's remarks for question number 7. To attribute the first formation of things to the innermost properties of matter would be to mistake the effect for the cause, since such properties are themselves an effect that must have had a prior cause. Question number 8. What about the idea that attributes the first formation of all things to an accidental combination of matter, that is, to chance? Answer.
Another absurdity. How could anyone with any common sense believe that chance is an intelligent agent? Moreover, what is chance? Nothing.
Author's remarks for question number 8. The harmony that governs the forces of the universe reveals certain set combinations and designs, and thus an intelligent power. To attribute the first formation of things to chance would be nonsense, because chance is blind and cannot produce intelligent results. An intelligent chance would no longer be chance. Question number 9. Where may we see in the first cause a supreme intelligence, superior to all other intelligences? Answer.
You have a proverb that says, "The workman is known by his work." So look at the work and you will find the workman. Pride is what creates disbelief. Human pride believes in nothing above itself, and that is why people think they are so powerful. Poor beings. A mere breath from God could blow them over.
Author's remarks for question number 9. We judge the power of an intelligence by its works. Since no human being could create what nature produces, it is obvious that the first cause must be an intelligence superior to humankind. Whatever may be the marvels accomplished by human intelligence, such intelligence itself must have a cause. The greater the results, the greater the first cause must have been. No matter what name you give it, that intelligence is the first cause of all things.
We will return to our program after these messages.
A new masterpiece has just been released by Odyssey of America, Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pereira. Under the guidance of the spirit Leon Dennis, the spirit author Camilo Castelo Branco, using the pen name Camilo Cândido Botelho, describes to the medium Yvonne A. Pereira his dreadful experience after discarnated by suicide. The book entails invaluable instruction demonstrating the greatness of the divine mercy toward repentant suicides, and providing them with the opportunity to understand the universe and life in its fullest dimension, the beginnings of planet Earth, the evolution of the human being, the immortality of the soul. Christ-conscious morality and other relevant themes are presented for the understanding that no attempt at moral growth will work if we remain imprisoned in self-ignorance. A completing of this work shows that there is a road of reconstruction for those who repent. There is always hope because rehabilitation is possible. Buy your copy today at www.odysseyofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, it's a beautiful day because we're talking about the journey of self-discovery. It seems that it's the most important thing we have to do in our lifetime. And what is exactly that? To get to know more about it, we have here with us our dear friend Eduardo Guimarães from New York. He has been the president of the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society in Manhattan, New York, with a group of friends. and Angela, and also Elder, and many others who have been doing a wonderful job spreading the news of Spiritism there. They have a specific meeting in which they study about self-discovery based on the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's fascinating to get to know more about this most important topic. We have him here with us. And if you want to ask a question, you can go to the chat room of Kardec Radio at blogtalkradio.com/Kardec Radio, or you can call us at 858-769-4705, or even you can email us at kardecradio@gmail.com. Of course, we also have Facebook for Kardec Radio. You can find us there. Also, leave us a message. We're still here live to answer to your questions. Eduardo, thank you so much for being with us at Kardec Radio today.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is a great pleasure to be all together this morning, and I wish we can have a wonderful time together. And I ask the good spirits to inspire us and to help us in this discussion.
That's for sure, Eduardo. Without them, we can't go too far, right? So, yes. Eduardo, as we just talked before the break, we were talking about the importance of self-discovery, and you have been working on this in the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist group. Before we get to the core of the matter here, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about your experience in the Spiritist practice. How long have you been working on as a Spiritist worker or practitioner?
I first started my studies in the 1980 in Brazil. I lived in Rio, and was my first contact with Spiritism, 1980.
Mm-hmm. And then,
yes.
And then you moved to France, right? Where you also helped in the Spiritist movement over there.
Yes. Then after working in Brazil for 16 years in Spiritism, we found a Spiritist center in Islam. Then I moved to France. For 5 years, I lived in Paris, where I could work in the Groupe Espírita Allan Kardec, and getting to know the French Spiritist movement, which was a great pleasure also. And then in 2002, I moved to New York, and I'm here since then. And these 11 years here, I had the opportunity also to get to know so many people, wonderful people that work in the Spiritist movement here in the Tri-State area. And we had the opportunity to found the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society in 2007, August 2007.
That's wonderful, and I know you guys are doing great work there. So, in specifically the case of the study session, that meeting dedicated to self-discovery, can you tell us a little bit about how you've been conducting those meetings, the purpose and the dynamics of it?
Yes. Our concern in the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society is studying Kardec deeply, because Spiritism, as we know, is not a religion as we understand religion. We don't have a clergy. We don't have any institution that dictates rules for us to follow. So Spiritism keeps its unity by the study of Kardec books. So all Spiritist centers all over the planet are doing a wonderful job because we all are united on Kardec, in Kardec books. So we have this concern. And the Gospel According to Spiritism, which is the third book of Allan Kardec, it's a deep study on self-discovery. So the way we perform this in the IESS is that we read very very small passages, and then we open for discussion. And each sentence is so important, and we always find many advices and many tips for us to get to know ourselves and to better ourselves. An example of it, to be more concrete, each time we think of Jesus teachings, for example, forgiveness, and we open the discussion, every single person has the opportunity to say how hard it is, why I cannot do this, how can we do to apply this to our lives. And then together we find ways of applying this to resist wrongdoing in our lives and replacing these wrongdoings by the virtues taught by Christ.
So, Eduardo, it's pretty much like a support group to self-discovery and inner transformation.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
And we feel that everybody is very happy, and many times, our friends say, "Wow, I like this meeting because it's like a therapy," and it is. It's a spiritual therapy.
That's beautiful, and that's exactly one of the main things in the Spirit book. When Kardec asked the question, "What is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and resisting the draw of evil?" And the answer was, "A sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself." But Eduardo, how can we actually understand the correlation? It seems second nature, but it's not quite, because he was asking about self-improvement and the correlation of self-improvement with self-knowledge, as well as self-knowledge being the basis to resist wrongdoing. How can we understand the correlation of those things? What does that mean?
Well, as you said, self-improvement is only possible if we have self-knowledge. I cannot improve myself if I don't have a clue about my own needs and my own possibilities. So it's essential for us to study ourselves first, to dive into ourselves. So to give an example, if we are with a health problem and we want to overcome that, we have to study the case, and sometimes we need a physician or a psychologist or a nutritionist or a personal trainer to help us to discover, to figure out what is going on. And once we know that, then we can fix it. Same thing if I want to improve my house, do some improvement in my house. I have to know how the electrical installation is, the plumbing, the structure of a wall, ceiling, floor, and see the possibilities to improve that. I will have some limits. I cannot do whatever I want to do. I have some limits to it. So studying the case is very important. So we have to also study us very carefully. And the Spiritism gives us very important tools for us to understand and know ourselves. The first thing is that Spiritism teaches that we are spirits, eternal spirits. We are not only body. That we have a potential to be developed. So we are not a creature that was created by God all done. We are in a constant work of progress. And then, knowing the potentials to be developed, we also know that our destination is perfection. So, getting to know myself means that I have to understand that I am a spirit. I have a great potential to be developed, and I will be perfect one day. But then I have to see my present condition. Where am I now? What are my tendencies? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths right now? So I understand where I came from. I'm an eternal spirit. Now I understand that I'm here and my conditions are that. I have some weakness, I have some strength, and then from this I can move on. So knowing my potential, knowing my weaknesses means that I know that wrongdoings are a common thing in our lives, as we are not perfect. We make choices, and we can make wrong choices or good choices. So avoiding wrong choices now with this awareness will help me to focus in my potential and leaving behind the wrongdoing. This is the only way for us to really improve ourselves.
That's great. And Eduardo, as you're saying, it tells us about the importance of self-acceptance, which, by the way, when we are studying mental health, a big component of mental health encompasses self-esteem. And self-esteem, in one of its features, it includes self-acceptance. So you're talking about something that's for some people they still consider a taboo, which is to accept themselves as they are, knowing that they have the potential to progress. It's a very revolutionary way of seeing ourselves, because the secular religions, they don't see it that way, and either you were born right and correct, or you are damned to hell, because if you do something wrong, you're never going to be able to correct yourself.
Exactly. So self-acceptance is fundamental, because if I don't accept myself, I will be stuck on guilt, and I will be discouraged. So understanding that if I have some conflicts, I have some problems, I have some weaknesses, is just natural, as all human beings have. So this is really something important for us to be encouraged to move on.
Exactly. But how do we teach this self-discovery to children and youth in the spiritual, psychological sense of the concept? Because we know that one of your expertise as well is also teaching Spiritism to children. But how do you teach self-discovery to children?
Well, the same way that adults must know that we are spirits, that we have a potential, that we have weaknesses, the same thing we apply to children. Of course, adapting to their ages. So, but we, since the first classes, very little children, we give them these ideas. And it's very beautiful to see how they understand things so easily. And we have a beautiful case of a kid that attend our classes, Jensen, Angela's son.
Mm-hmm.
He is now 8 years old, and last year and before last year also, he had faced some bullying at school. And his reaction or his action to it was wonderful. And Angela was talking to him, and she didn't know exactly how to deal with that, because, he's such a good boy, and he was not reacting, but he was suffering, of course. And then she asked him, but what did you do? And he said, well, Mom, I cannot answer back because this is not good. I cannot do the same thing they are doing to me. And this shows how he is understanding and applying what he learned since he was 4 years old to his life, which helps him not to be afraid. He's not afraid. And he's neither how can I say that, avoiding to face the problem. He's proactive. He understands that doing the same thing is not good for him. It's not good for the others. And he understands that the problem is not with him. The problem is with the one that is bullying. But this is the one that are in difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it comes from these teachings. He understands his spirit, that he's progressing, everything that we teach in our classes. But of course, as educators also, we have to encourage them every time they do right and congratulate them for their good deeds. So, and talk with love and understanding about their wrongdoings or negative tendencies and encourage them to do better, showing our support, because we are the ones that are there to support them. So showing them that we understand that they are not perfect, we accept them, we love them as they are, and also very important when we deal with kids, but it applies to adults also, but especially kids, don't never try to show ourselves as perfect beings, because we are not. So we should be an example of someone aware of our own limits, but always ready to recognize our mistakes, to fix them, asking for forgiveness when it is necessary. This is so powerful, because I'm showing Eve, listen, I'm imperfect also, but I'm trying my best to improve myself, and if I did something wrong to you, I ask for forgiveness. This is very powerful.
Exactly. So we're saying that first we need to walk the talk, and then second, you're telling us that through stories and kind conversations, we should bring about the teachings to them on how they have to get to know of themselves. For example, we see kids nowadays that they are so, they are easily angered about anything. So bringing to them, you can tell that they are different from others. And then, telling them, like, do you see how quickly you react? So they get to know of themselves, like when we talk about emotions, giving names to emotions, because sometimes they don't know even how to name what they're feeling. Parents ask them, what are you feeling? They are crying. What is happening? What are you feeling? And they don't know because they don't have the words to say, mostly because parents don't talk about emotions. Right, Eduardo? If you don't talk about these things, they won't be able to reason through it and tame the emotions around. So it's what we say, identify emotions to tame them. Correct?
Exactly. And we use a lot of plays. We do, small plays with them where we're going to deal with this kind of problems. So they live the emotions in the play, and they love it. They love it.
So using techniques, right, that accommodate to their needs. As our dear friend Elizabeth Mason from the United Kingdom is telling us, when we accept ourselves as we are and realize we have to change and forgive ourselves, we have better self-esteem. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your comment. And also, when we talk about self-improvement, André Luiz, through Chico Xavier, he put together a very straightforward message named 10 Commandments for Self-Improvement, which is actually published in a previous issue of the Spiritist magazine, which is, by the way, free access digitally. And if people want to print, all you have to do is go to the spiritistmagazine.com website, and there you have a link to HP MagCloud, our partner, that prints the copies on demand. It's just a matter of clicking there, placing your order, and you're going to receive your magazine. Now, Eduardo, we're going to listen to André Luiz' own take on self-improvement as he unfolds Kardec's teachings, and then we're going to discuss, okay?
All right.
10 Commandments for Self-Improvement. Andre Luiz. Number 1. Decrease your needs and increase your concessions. Number 2. Intensify your work and reduce the share of wasted time. Number 3. Elevate your ideas and repress your impulses. Number 4. Release the present individual in you towards Jesus and imprison the one of the past that still lives in you. Number 5. Watch your gestures and understand the gestures of others. Number 6. Persevere in the noble study, recognizing in life the sacred school for our ascent to God. Number 7. Judge yourself and forgive indiscriminately. Number 8. Speak with humility, listening intently. Number 9. Meditate constructing and pray serving. Number 10. Trust in the eternal love and fulfill your daily obligations that He assigned to you.
Andre Luiz, in this message, he really became a master for all of us in self-improvement. So let us discuss a little bit, Eduardo, the case of Andre Luiz when he talks about the 10 commandments for self-improvement. He first starts by saying, decrease your needs and increase your concessions.
Well, this first commandment, it's wonderful because it talks about combating selfishness. If I decrease my needs, it means that I will understand that many needs are not really needs, are illusionary needs. So if I decrease them, I will understand that I don't need that. And at the same time, he says, increase your concessions, which means I will little by little understand that my neighbor needs are real. And so I decrease my needs. I understand that I don't need many things that I thought I needed. And I start seeing my neighbor's needs, real needs. And I'm then willing to serve, willing to support them in their necessities.
Mm-hmm. And then it says, second, intensify your work and reduce the share of wasted time. This is quite interesting because nowadays we hear many people say, I'm bored. And many kids are learning that pathway, like, I'm bored. So Andre Luiz probably gives us an antidote to that I'm bored type of mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yes, intensify our work means also persevering in what we are willing to do. Because many times we have so many plans, I'll do this, I'll do that, and we start doing, the first day, the second day, and then we give up. And then happens what you just said, I'm bored again, because we don't have this perseverance in the ideals that we have. So it reminds me Henry Ford when he said that a man decided to do something from A to Z. In the A, he starts a job. In the B, he is discouraged by the amount of work. In the C, he's discouraged because he doesn't feel like I'm not able to do. And in the D, he gives up. And then he says, well, this man, his mistake was not taking into consideration that the amount of the work and the challenges are just natural, and they are there not to prevent us from achieving the Z, but they are there to be overcome. And if I fail, failure also must be expected and not make us discouraged. Just, overcome that, learning the lesson, and moving forward to achieve Z. So intensifying the work, I think, is really persevering and believing, trusting ourselves. Then we will not waste time anymore because we're going to be busy working to achieve our ideal.
Exactly. And then elevate your ideas and repress your impulses.
This, I see an invitation to focus on our potential instead our old patterns. So when I elevate my ideas and repress my impulses, if I focus in my potential, I will, at the same time, even if I'm not really focus on repressing the impulses, by working in my elevated ideas, I'll do both jobs at the same time. In the book, The Messengers, André Lewis talks about, it's the mentor, Clarencio, talking to André Lewis, saying that most of us, when we fell here during our reincarnation, is just because we believed much more in our weaknesses than in our potentials. So if we elevate our ideas, if we really look forward and we put these ideals before us and we work to achieve that, our impulses will be repressed automatically because I will not have time to that. I will replace them, and of course, if they show up, I just tell them, no way, go back to your place because I'm not giving attention to you.
That's really interesting. Now, when he talks about these 10 commandments, at number 4, he tells us about releasing the present individual in you towards Jesus and imprison the one of the past that still lives in you. It's quite intriguing, his suggestion in that regard. What does that mean?
Well, I see that as cultivating our strength and the virtues that we possess and control impulses and vices. But I see almost like a continuation of the three. What we are now, if we are present and we look for Jesus, Jesus is the ideal. And when he says, imprison the one of the past that still lives in you, is that we are both. We are light and we are shade. And for the light to spread, for the light to grow, what we call the old being must die little by little, not feeding this being. If I don't feed this being anymore, he will starve and he will disappear. And I have to feed this present individual that is looking forward, is looking for enlightenment, is looking for happiness. So this is the one that I have to feed. This is the one that I have to support.
Exactly. Makes so much sense. Jesus as the ideal, the guide and model for us. And then he says, watch your gestures and understand the gestures of others. That's quite fascinating.
That's wonderful. Because, when Jesus told us to not pay attention to the speck in our neighbor's eyes, because we have a pole before our eyes. So we have to watch our gestures, pay attention to ourselves, because we only have power upon ourselves. We don't have any power upon others. So if the gestures of others, if the behavior of my neighbors bother me, the problem is not with my neighbors, it's within me, that I'm lacking patience, I'm lacking understanding, I'm lacking indulgence, I'm lacking forgiveness. So if I watch my gestures, if I pay attention to my behaviors and I try to better myself and I understand my neighbor, I forgive my neighbors, I understand and I give them the right to be as they are, I will no longer suffer. Because the other way around is suffering. If I want to change my neighbor and I don't pay attention to the change that I have to make myself, I will suffer badly, because this is impossible. I cannot change anybody. And I should not be blind to my own misdeeds.
Makes sense. And then he says that the importance of self-improvement correlated to studying, when he recommends that persevere in the noble study, recognizing in life the sacred school to our ascent to God.
Wonderful also, because we know that the evolution, the progress is infinite. So we should be constantly studying everything, studying ourselves, studying the world around ourselves, studying our spiritual nature, understanding everything that life brings to us, and never be comfortable in our position. Because the day I stop studying, the day I stop looking for knowledge, because I feel like, okay, I'm okay with that, I know a lot, that day I will start shrinking my potentials, because only constant work, only constant movement, only constant study can keep us moving forward and unfolding our potentials. So studying ourselves and studying life is the way for us to ascend to God. There's no way to reach God without enlightening ourselves, because enlightenment will help us, will lead us to self-improvement.
So it's fascinating, because as we're going through each one of these commandments that he suggests for self-improvement, we realize that it's all about this emotional, spiritual intelligence. And when we talk about the definition of emotional intelligence in the 1990s, when it was first conceived in science, it tells us that it has three features. One, we first need to recognize our own emotions. Then we need to also understand the emotions of others and discriminate them both, and know, as a third step, what to do. This is precisely, in a summary, what he's saying when he's telling us that, right? When he says, for example, judge yourself and forgive indiscriminately.
This is wonderful, because when we read judge yourself and forgive indiscriminately, when I first read that, I thought about, okay, I judge myself, I will pay attention to myself, and I will forgive others. But he didn't say others here. So it applies to myself also. I judge myself, so I analyze myself. I see my reality now, who I am now, and then I forgive whatever I found within myself, because the self-forgiveness will allow me to move forward also. So I judge myself, I don't judge others, because it's not my business. I can help others, but don't not judge others. But also I'd like to talk about the verb judge. So judgment is something that we do naturally. When we have choice, we have to judge. We have to choose one or another. So we're going to see if this is better, this is, it's not that nice, and then I make a decision. So judging here is analyzing. It's not, because we have the tendency, don't judge others, and we think that we cannot see any misdeed, we cannot see any mistake on others. It's not this. This is impossible. Not judging means not condemning, but of course I have to see the facts. I will see the facts. So I will judge myself. I will analyze myself, and whatever situation I find myself, in any condition I find myself, I will forgive myself for being like this, and that will give me the opportunity to fix things that I found that is not good. If I do this to myself, I'll be able to do to others. If I don't do this to myself, I will be unable to do this to others.
Exactly. And as Luis Sergio Maroda has written to us here at the chat room of Kardec Radio, he says, knowing ourselves is quite a challenge. Since there is a heritage we bring inside that due to incarnation we need to forget, and in order for us to forgive others and others better. As Chico used to say, learn to forgive and solve your problems for eternity. Oh, Chico Xavier, what kind of wisdom is that we still haven't understood? That's so right. And that's when André Luiz says, another step into that is speaking with humility and listening intently. Nowadays, it is quite a challenge, especially because in science we recognize that there are some cultures that, they give some room for listening and speaking with humility, but other cultures are really very difficult for you to show those qualities, because especially in the Western society, we're so used to speaking our minds and not listening sometimes because we don't even train our children to listen. So, Eduardo, speaking with humility, what is this speaking with humility? Because some people think speaking with humility seems like not speaking at all.
Yes, it is a really difficult concept, because we see in our spiritual senses, every time we talk about humility, we see how difficult it is for the majority of people to understand what is that. So, of course, it's not speaking. It's not speaking at all. But humility, as if we take Jesus as the model and the example for us, nobody in this planet live in a more humble way of he did. And he used to say, I'm the master, I'm the bread of life, I'm the light of the world. So speaking with humility is speaking with our sincerity and our not trying to show off, but not depreciating ourselves neither, being ourselves. So when I speak with humility, I'm not imposing myself on others. I'm respecting others, but I speak mostly, and I think most importantly, to build, to uplift, to really help the communication to happen in a way that everyone can take advantage from it. So basically, I think it's not trying to impose ourselves, but not trying neither to avoiding showing our reality.
Exactly. And then as we march towards the final two statements, when he says quite intriguingly as well. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, because listening intently also is, I think, is very important, because I also see in meetings when we are talking in group that one person is saying something and I see another person eager to say something, raising the hand, like very excited, and when that person has the opportunity to says the same thing that the other person says. The person was not listening at all, was just, eager to talk. And also listening is not only listening to words, it's listening to what is behind what was said. So to give an example, when someone very aggressive, if I answer back with aggressiveness, I'm not listening to the person. I'm just reacting, because when someone aggressors myself, that person behind this aggression, that person is showing suffering, is showing some need for love, for understanding, for forgiveness.
That's a great insight. And that's a very interesting thing that happens more commonly than we imagine. Even at higher, superior education, we see the same happening there as well. So when he talks about the importance of meditating and praying, he gives a specific tip about how to do it effectively. He says, meditate constructing and pray serving. What does André Luiz probably means by saying that, Eduardo?
I love that, because Spiritism teaches that love without serving is it's like a flower without perfume. So meditating and praying are essential for our health, for our inner peace. But I see this as a preparation to the action. So when he says meditate constructing and praying serving, he's showing that meditate and prayer are very important. But without actions, they will not accomplish their goal. But also you have to say that constructing and serving is not only doing, some movements with our body. I have to go and do this or do that. It's also constructing ourselves, inside ourselves. It's also constructing this loving perception of the world, a loving feelings for people. So constructing serving means not only actual movement, but, construction of something better, changes that we have to do in our lives.
Yes, that's fascinating. And Eduardo, he finalizes the 10 commandments of self-improvement by giving us one major commandment, which is probably related to the first commandment brought in by Moses. But it has two moments. One, when he says, trust in the eternal love and fulfill your daily obligations that he assigned to you. So when you talk about it, especially on the second part, fulfill your daily obligations that he assigned to you. Some people can claim that they have not received any assignment by God. So how do we also recognize these assignments given by God
This is a very interesting question because it's the same thing that I hear, as questions in the Spiritist Center. Sometimes people come to me and say, Eduardo, I would like to know what is my mission here. Because how can I accomplish my mission if I don't know? Nobody told me. So how can I accomplish my mission? And Spiritism teaches that if we are present, if we are living the present, if we are not stuck in the past, if we are not too concerned about the future, if we are present, we will know exactly what God is asking from us at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I have a great mission in the future, this great mission must start now with small actions. If we think of Divaldo Pereira Franco and the mention of the way that nowadays it's a huge institution that takes care of more than 3,000 kids every day, 400 families. It's a gigantic charitable work, social work. They just start by being present when the first kid appeared to them. And they didn't deny the kid was there, and they understood, well, if the kid is here, it's because God sent the kid to me, so I have to take care of the kid. So if we are present, we're going to see during our daily activities thousands of demands, that you can say that, from God to us. If we are a parent, to be the better father or mother I can be at that moment to my kid. If in need, if I'm a teacher, whatever position I have in life, doing my best at that very moment is the key for us to do what accomplish the task God assigned to us. And of course, trusting the eternal love is a very wise advice also, because as we are not perfect, as we are not in control of everything, when things go wrong or go in another direction, different the direction we would like to be, trusting the eternal love is the way for us not to lose our balance. Because I'm doing my best, I'm accomplishing my task, and life presents me this challenge now, so I'm going to trust God, the eternal love that always gives us what is good, what is best for us. So if I cannot handle a situation, if it's out of my reach, so I trust God because He knows what He's doing.
So, Eduardo, when he says trust in the eternal love, he's also giving a tip to all of us, especially in the current world when many people are so discouraged. They're seeing so many strange things happening around. So he's telling us, hey, believe that love is eternal and God exists.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Because we can do nothing. These are things that, it's out of our reach. We are unable to solve these problems. If we cannot solve, we can trust God because He knows how to solve.
Exactly. Eduardo, we're going to give a very short break after this beautiful conversation just to give us some reflection about it. When we come back, we have more. We have more about Joanna de Angelis' books on self-discovery and a beautiful case that you're going to listen directly from Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. Stay there and share the news that Kardec Radio is here to nourish your soul.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
And Life Goes On, in an inspiring novel by the spirit author André Luiz. This book is a spirit's description of the individual after discarnating, and it shows that the lives of the inhabitants of the beyond are related to their mental state. In a novel with 26 chapters, it tells the story of real characters who, upon discarnating, received the help of spirit friends. These friends encourage them to renew themselves through study and work in order to prepare them to review their lives and understand schemes of the past, thereby enabling them to follow new directives of behavior. This volume teaches us the practice of self-examination in a certainty that, in conformity with the laws of God, life continues full of hope and labor, progress and accomplishment after death. Buy your copy today at www.edysayofamerica.com.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone, the online study of the Spirit's Book and the Gospel according to Spiritism. Spiritism for Everyone meets every Wednesday evening and Saturday morning using the latest technology in web conferencing. You can join in from any computer in the comfort of your home or office, no matter where you are in the U.S. or the world. Spiritism for Everyone is open, free, and requires no registration. To access the web live meetings, go to www.spiritus.us. Spiritism for Everyone is a program of the United States Spiritist Council.
And now we return to our program.
We are here with our dear friend Eduardo Guimarães. He is here helping us understand more about the ins and outs of this journey of self-discovery. It's interesting when we say journey because that's what really takes to get to know more about ourselves. And Eduardo, Joana de Angelis to Divaldo Franco, you have mentioned about him already. She wrote several books, amongst them the book Self-Discovery, about inner journey. And she, in one of the chapters, which is quite interesting, she talks about the concept of mental addictions, which encompasses dissatisfaction, indifference, panic, fear of death. Can you please help us understand more what mental addictions are and how do we understand this in our daily lives?
Well, as we know that we come from different lifetimes through reincarnation process, and we are just learning how to deal with our emotions, with our conflicts, with the challenges that life presents to us. Being immature and unaware of our potentials, we are sometimes subject to problems that will become a habit as I don't understand or I don't believe that I can overcome them. So she talks about dissatisfaction when, for example, as she talks in the book, when I start seeing myself, my low self-esteem makes me see other people in a so high position compared to myself, and I start feeling that I'm not able to reach that position, and I'm stuck there. I don't know that I can get out of this. I can also improve myself, and sometimes it's not about reaching the other person level, because I put that person in that level. The person is not really in that elevated position. It's a matter of understanding our differences. We are different beings, so we have different acquisitions and we have different understandings. So what I have that I feel is so good, my neighbor won't have. What he or she has, I don't have. It's just a matter of we are different people. We are not better. We are not more or less than the others. We are just different. So not having this understanding, I keep myself in this dissatisfaction about my own being, and not believing that I can overcome that, it becomes my second nature. I believe in this. I believe this is eternal. And I keep repeating the same pattern over and over and over throughout reincarnations. And it really becomes enrooted on my being. Same thing to indifference that can come from a depression when I lose interest in everything in my life. And the more I leave this condition, the more also the roots grow stronger and difficult for me to overcome. And it becomes also a second nature. The same thing with panic and fear of death. So they all become my second nature because I don't know that I can overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming my second nature is a kind of addiction, because it's also a way of escaping my responsibility to overcome them. So it's easier for me to adapt and be there complaining than struggling, making efforts to get out of this, to break this cocoon, and then unfolding my spiritual nature, the God that I have inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, Spiritism teaching us our spiritual nature and the possibilities for us to improve will also help us to overcome the addiction.
Exactly. And we want to remind the listener as well that as Eduardo is mentioning these mental addictions, we're talking about the psychological, spiritual perspective of them. But of course, we know once we are incarnated, they can have a great impact in our physiology. And I'll give you an example. For example, when people talk about hoarding behavior, which is considered by the Mental Health Institute in the United States as hoarding is that, compose to accumulate things. And that is now considered a mental disorder. And just last year, for the first time, neuroscientists proved that addiction is that mental disorder that relies on an obsessive compulsive behavior. Really, it has a changed activation of the brain. There are some areas of the brain like the insular and the anterior cingulate cortex that are overly activated. So when we are talking about this, we're not discarding the physiology of it. We're just mentioning about the emotional aspect. And as we're talking about emotions, Eduardo, we want to know more about emotions and how they really are a big part of ourselves, so we have this journey of self-improvement accomplished. We know that the book Existential Conflict by Joanna de Angelis, as she writes in the preface, is a beautiful tribute to the book Heaven and Hell by Kardec. And in that book, Kardec talks about, the afterlife and describes he has the dialogues between him and several different types of spirits. So Joanna de Angelis, when she was being attributed to Heaven and Hell book by Kardec, by writing the book Existential Conflicts, she's telling us that conflicts, the inner conflicts that we have inside of us, are beyond this life, that can even exist in the spiritual realm after physical death, correct?
Yes, correct. As she says, everything starts in our mind. So we are what we think. And also, again, immortality and reincarnation will help us to understand that we are not the body. We are the spirit. And the spirit comes from a very, very long journey of evolution from the simple and unaware state, traveling to perfection. That we are far from this, but we are traveling, we are in that journey. And what we learn in one existence in a material body, we don't lose for the next reincarnation. It's an accumulation. Everything that we learn, we keep it. We discarnate, and in this period between two incarnations, living in the spiritual realm, we are just the same spirit. So we carry everything that we have learned here, everything that we feel, everything that we carry as emotions, we keep it as the body dies. Then we get to the spiritual realm, the same exactly individual. But here we have something extra. In the spiritual realm, without our physical body, all emotions, all feelings, they are potentialized. We feel more. If we are in a loving mood, if we have this inner peace, without the body, this will be even bigger. In the same way, all the conflicts, all the suffering that we carry unsolved, we will feel also in a stronger way, because the physical body is a tool that lessens our perceptions to help us to deal with our conflicts in a better manner. So as the conflict is related to the spirit and not to the body, leaving the body will not change what we are.
Exactly. And as Eduardo is saying this, we want to remind you that if you're living around the Spiritist side of Virginia, in Chantilly, Virginia, you can get to know more about these existential conflicts, as Joana de Angelis mentions, and how the many virtues written in the Gospel according to Spiritism can be great antidotes for them. And it's a workshop series. It's a 3-month workshop series entitled Healing the Soul. We began 2 weeks ago when we were talking about humility, healing guilt. This past week we were talking about simplicity, curing anxiety, and much, much more. And if you're far away, don't worry. Soon we'll be releasing the videotapes of these lectures for you to enjoy as well your study sessions. So now, Eduardo, we're going to listen to an example on how these feelings, they continue, these existential conflicts, beyond the death of the physical body, and how Spiritism can help us. It's the case of Lemaire in the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. Listen to this because it's quite fascinating.
An excerpt from the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec, Part 2, Chapter 6, Lemaire. Condemned to death by the Assize Court at Assini and executed on December 31st, 1857, evoked on January 29th, 1858. And so Kardec began with his questions. Evocation.
I'm here.
What are your feelings at seeing us?
Shame.
Did you remain conscious up to the last moment?
Yes.
Immediately after your execution, were you aware of your new existence?
I was plunged into great confusion, and I haven't yet come out of it. I felt a serene pain, and it seemed like it was my heart that suffered it. I saw something I couldn't recognize it roll at the foot of the scaffold. Then I saw blood flowing, and my pain became even more acute.
Was it a purely physical pain, similar to that caused by a serious wound, by the amputation of a limb, for example?
No, it was more like remorse, a great mental pain.
When did you start feeling it?
As soon as I was free.
Was the physical pain caused by the execution felt in your body or in your spirit?
The mental pain was in my spirit. My body felt the physical pain, but my spirit, separated from the body, also felt the physical pain.
Did you see your mutilated body?
I saw something formless, which seemed I was still part of. However, I felt myself intact outside of it. I was myself.
What impressions did this sight make on you?
I felt my pain a lot. I was completely lost in it.
Is it true that the body still continues to live for a few moments after being beheaded, and that the execution victim remains conscious of his thoughts?
The spirit withdraws little by little. The more the material ties interlace it, the less prompt its separation.
Some have said that they have seen an expression of anger and physical movements on certain execution victims' faces, as if they wanted to speak. Is that an effect of nervous contractions or an actual act of the will?
Of the will, since the spirit hasn't left yet.
What did you feel first upon entering your new existence?
Unbearable suffering, a sort of acute remorse whose cause I didn't know.
Did you find yourself in the company of your accomplices who were executed at the same time?
To our disgrace, yes. Seeing one another is constant torment. Each blames the others for his crime.
Have you encountered your victims?
I see them. They are happy. Their gaze persecutes me. I feel it piercing deep inside of me. I try to flee it in vain.
What feelings do you experience when you see them?
Shame and remorse. I myself caused it, but I still hate them for it.
What feeling do they experience at your sight?
Pity.
Do they display hatred and the desire for vengeance?
No, their wishes are for my expiation. You can't imagine the horrible torture in owing everything to those we hate.
So do you regret your corporeal life?
I regret only my crimes. If I had it to do it all over again, I wouldn't succumb.
Was the penchant toward evil in your very nature, or were you influenced more by the environment in which you lived?
The tendency towards evil was in my very nature because I was an inferior spirit. I wanted to ascend too quickly and ask for more than I was capable of. I thought I was strong, and so I chose a tough trial, but I gave in to the temptations of evil.
If you had received a solid education, would you have bypassed a life of crime?
Yes, but I had chosen beforehand the conditions into which I was born.
Could you have become a moral man?
A weak man, incapable of doing either good or evil. During my life, I could have corrected the evil of my nature, but I could not have raised myself up to the good.
Do you believe in God while alive?
No.
Nevertheless, it is said that at the last moment you repented. Is that true?
I believe in a vengeful God. I was afraid of his justice.
And now is your repentance more sincere?
Alas, I can see what I have done.
What do you think about God now?
I sense him, but I don't comprehend him.
Do you think the punishment inflicted upon you on earth was just?
Yes.
Do you expect to be forgiven for your crimes?
I don't know.
How do you intend to redeem them?
Through new trials, but it seems like there is an eternity between them and me.
Where are you now?
I am in my suffering.
We mean, in what place?
Right next to the medium.
Since you are here, in what form would you appear to us, if we could see you?
In my bodily form, my head separated from my body.
Could you appear to us?
No, leave me be.
Would you tell us how you escaped from the prison at Montdidier?
I don't know anymore. My suffering is so great that I have nothing but the memory of my crime. Leave me be.
Can we bring any relief to your suffering?
Pray for my expiation to come.
Wow, this is truly very intense, and this is an excerpt from the book Heaven and Hell. It's the case of Lemire. For those who are not familiar with the book Heaven and Hell, it has two parts. The second part, Kardec just publishes the dialogues he had through mediums with spirits in different mindsets. And this case is the case of a spirit who was a criminal. He was repentant, and he came to talk through the medium. Quite clearly, Eduardo, here we have a case of somebody who, beyond the death, clearly expresses many emotions: shame, confusion, mental pain, remorse, suffering. and he still feels this ambiguous reality of hatred and pity. Quite interesting. So basically, we're learning that existential conflicts, emotions, they are something of the nature of ourselves beyond the physical body. So we cannot blame our bodies for how we feel, right?
Right. Never. The body is just an instrument. The body is like a cloth, and everything is our responsibility. So we are the builders of our destiny. So whatever happens to us, it's our responsibility. And so knowing this, when we were listening to that message, we feel how powerful is the knowledge. If we know that, if we understand how life works, it gives us more willingness to do our job right now and not wait for tomorrow. Because I heard another day, I think it was Raul Teixeira or Divaldo Franco saying in a lecture, if I say I'll do this tomorrow will never come.
Mm-hmm.
If I do something, it's now, today.
Exactly. And as we are marching towards a greater understanding of ourselves, in another book by Joanna de Angelis entitled Open Your Heart and Find Happiness, in the preface, she talks about what's happening nowadays. Contemporary men and women, seduced by immeasurable ambition for power, which grants them luxury, leisure, and pleasure, remain dormant to their serious spiritual responsibilities, considering such responsibilities to be of secondary importance, and in the vain supposition that they can resolve their inner problems at any time, they transfer their attention and emotions to the outside world, causing great damage to their inner harmony. So then, Eduardo, it tells us about something you're just mentioning, but mostly about the freedom that we have nowadays to do whatever we like. But she's telling us that if we really don't focus on what's important, we're compromising our own inner harmony.
Exactly. And that's wonderful how the God's laws are perfect. Because when we didn't have this awareness, when our intelligence was not developed enough to understand things, the laws were more strict, even if we were hypocrites. But we had this society that forbid us to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays that we are considered to be more responsible and with a better understanding, God gives us this new society that allows us to do whatever we want to do. It's we are really freer than before, if we can say that. Because if we are not free to choose our path, we will never learn how to control our emotions, how to make better choices. And yesterday, studying the book of André Lewis, Missionaries of the Light, André Lewis is studying with the mentor Alexander the pineal gland and how it is related to our sexual energy, how it controls our sexual energy when we are kids. And then he starts thinking, oh my God, we come from, thousands of years of misusing our sexuality, our sexual energy, and repeating the same mistakes over and over. Wouldn't it be better not to have sex at all? And then Alexander answered him, André, this doesn't make any sense, because if we, the problem is not the sex itself. The problem is the use that we are doing of it. So how can we learn how to use it if we don't have the opportunity to use it? So, and then the same thing would apply to intelligence. we have been using our intelligence to do so many horrible things. What about not having intelligence at all? So life wouldn't work. So nowadays we have this freedom, but we can see the ones that are, liberating themselves as they please, just enjoying material sensations. We can see them as children playing with fire or hazardous substances or with sharp objects that can not only hurt but even kill themselves. So they don't know that they are in danger, as they don't understand their spiritual nature. They don't understand immortality. They don't understand that physical life is not a journey of pleasure, but it's a journey of learning, a journey of evolving. So they are playing with something that are very dangerous to them because they don't know how to use it. And the kids, when they do this, they are innocent. They don't know. But not knowing will not prevent them from being poisoned or hurt or even to death. So not knowing don't give us any excuse, because the law is the law of action and reaction. We act in a way, we have the reaction that will teach us that option, that choice was not good. The law of action and reaction is God talking to us. We are free, we choose, but any choice has a consequence. The consequence is God telling us, this was good, so repeat it. This was not good, so avoid it. So they are in this unaware state of mind, so they have this illusion that life is just to enjoy bodily sensations. So if we do this, what we are doing, as we have discussed previously in this talk, we have, our instincts, we have our tendencies, and we are here to overcome them and not to indulge ourselves on it. We are here to learn. If we just, liberate ourselves and do whatever we feel like doing, first of all, we are harming ourselves because we are not improving. We are just repeating the patterns, the addictions that we have talked about also, that comes from the past, not only from this life, but also from previous lives. And also, life on earth would be impossible. Can we imagine a society where every single person do whatever they please? That would be impossible. So we are really here to learn, to progress, and there is no learning, no progress without refraining what we see that is harmful to us, to ourselves, and to others also.
That's correct. And we have a beautiful discussion here happening at the chat room of Kardec Radio when Karina Menezes shared some quite insightful statement saying acting with compassion towards ourselves and others is the key to avoid suffering and a conscious attempt to achieve self-improvement. And Elizabeth Mason is reminding us that this pain can really be felt beyond this lifetime, as we've seen in the case of the book Heaven and Hell. And as our dear friend Luis Sergio Maroda is quoting from one statement that Eduardo made, complementing by saying that sex is like many kinds of energy, but what if we stick up our fingers into the electric outlet? The result is destructive. So pretty much we have a beautiful discussion happening here. And to wrap up, Eduardo, with the goal...
Can I just go back a little bit in this last question? if we don't do this work of disciplining ourselves and to acquire a better understanding and a better position in life, what happens, the consequence of this, is that selfishness will grow stronger, and our willpower will be weaker. So we're going to be stuck there. And the one last thing, as we have seen in the case of the book Heaven and Hell, well, we carry this within ourselves. And then we have a spiritual body that is recording everything that we feel, everything that we think, everything that we live. So all of it will be imprinted in our perispirit. And the perispirit will be the mold for the new body, my next reincarnation. So if my perispirit is imprinted, is filled with these unbalanced energies, the new body will resent that, because every unbalance that I carry in my perispirit will disturb the formation of the body, which is very wise, a wise law that God established, because as the body will resent everything that is in the perispirit, it's a way for the perispirit to be freed from the imbalance, having a body according to its needs.
And as you're saying this, we want to remind everybody that, of course, if you experience anything physically, don't be ashamed, because, only those who have permission from God are ready to undergo challenges in the physical body, and it doesn't mean in any way, form that you're less evolved, because, for example, Chico Xavier, a wonderful, loving soul, had his challenges in the physical body, diseases and problems, whereas there are many people who apparently are very healthy physically, but they're emotionally twisted and spiritually even more disturbed. But as Eduardo is saying, everything is being printed, and later on it's going to be affecting our upcoming lives. By the way, we have here, we want to mention that Kardec Radio, in the upcoming program next week, we're going to open a new session, a segment that we will lead and host, Kardec Radio Answers to Your Questions, because many people have been sending lots of questions, and now we are ready, giving spiritual permission to address them here at every program. If you don't want your name to be disclosed, just let us know. The goal is just to reach out to you. By the way, Dream Master, who is here at the chat room of Kardec Radio, you have shared to all of us that you experience some form of pain physically and emotionally every day. We are here to support you, and at the very end of the show, we're going to say a special prayer. If you have anything specific, write to us at kardecradio@gmail.com, and we will be happy to assist you. Right now, Eduardo, we're going to go to a short break. When we come back, the ultimate question about Jesus proposing us that be perfect. What is it? We want to know more, okay?
All right.
We will return to our program.
A new masterpiece has just been released by Edusei of America, Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pereira, under the guidance of the spirit Leon Dennis. The spirit author, Camilo Castelo Branco, using the pen name Camilo Cândido Botelho, describes to the medium Yvonne Pereira his dreadful experience after discarnated by suicide. The book entails invaluable instruction demonstrating the greatness of the divine mercy toward repentant suicides, and providing them with the opportunity to understand the universe and life in its fullest dimension, the beginnings of planet Earth, the evolution of the human being, the immortality of the soul. Christ-conscious morality and other relevant themes are presented for the understanding that no attempt at moral growth will work if we remain imprisoned in self-ignorance. A completing of this work shows that there is a road of reconstruction for those who repent. There is always hope because rehabilitation is possible. Buy your copy today at www.edusailofamerica.com.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Now in English, the book Action and Reaction by the Spirit Andrea Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier. Buy your copy online or via your ebook reader. Go to www.ediceiofamerica.com today. The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we are here having this most wonderful conversation with our friends at blogtalkradio.com/Kardec Radio, led by our dear Eduardo Guimarães. Eduardo, self-discovery wouldn't be enough to understand it if we don't mention that Jesus himself recommended that we improve ourselves and go to other levels of self-understanding. And in the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 17, we have the whole chapter dedicated to the Spiritist understanding of that very passage when Jesus said, "Be perfect." What is this perfection of being, Eduardo? Is it really achievable? So many people are reluctant to this concept of perfection. How is it possible?
Well, in this chapter, Kardec opens the chapter by citing Matthew 5:44, 46, 47, and 48, where Jesus said, "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who treat you with contempt and persecute you. For if you only love those who love you, what reward will you have? Are not even the publicans doing the same thing? And if you only greet your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Are not even the publicans doing so? Be perfect, therefore, as your Father who is in heaven is perfect." This is a beautiful passage, and we see that Jesus is clearly inviting us to do more than it is expected from us to do, to go the extra mile, to do something unexpected, something beyond our limits. So we're going to broaden our capabilities. So perfection here, and Kardec makes the comment, we at that time, because we have to consider that civilization, those people at that time, they are us, or they were us. We have been there. We have lived there. But at that time, we could not understand, subtle nuances. So Jesus gave us a model. God, be perfect as the Father who is in heaven is perfect. But then he explained by saying, what should we do to be perfect? So love our enemies and bless those who curse us. Do good to those who hate us, and pray for those who treat us with contempt and persecute us. Well, if we do this, and we go beyond our limitations, we are perfecting ourselves. If I do something beyond my present abilities, it means that I'm growing. And Piaget, he explains that when he talks about the cognitive development of kids. If we are teaching kids, every single new lesson should challenge them, should challenge their present knowledge, so they can learn something new, accommodate this to the old knowledge that they have. So everything will mix up and will form a new structure. So what Jesus is proposing us is what Piaget saw in the cognitive development of children. He's proposing, do a little bit more than you can do, that you are used to do. By doing this, you are acquiring a new virtue that will be now part of your structure. Your old structure now is reformed, transformed into a new one. So this is the process to achieve perfection. Then it is achievable if we understand the laws of the law of progress. As we have said, we come from the unaware and simple state, and we have been reincarnating throughout history many, many times, innumerable times. If we consider as our friends that think they are reluctant to the concept of perfection, because they see life as just that lifetime. If life were just one, just what we are living now, and then that's it, of course perfection would not be achievable. But as Spiritism teaches that we are eternal beings reincarnating till we achieve perfection, so the work will be done. It's not only possible, it's inevitable, it's a law. We all will achieve perfection. We can sometimes postpone that. We can be stationary for a little bit, but even there, we are not really stationary, because as we stay in the same condition, it causes us pain, because we are going against the law of progress. So pain starts adding to our structure, and the more I stay in that condition, the more pain build up, and suffering becomes unbearable. At that moment, I wake up and I decide, okay, enough, I'm tired of it, I want to move forward, and then I move forward. So it's not only achievable, it is inevitable, but only through reincarnation. And the time that we will spend to that is according to our determination and to our commitment to our own progress.
Exactly. Eduardo, as you're saying this, we want to remind our listener that if they want to read the whole explanation, it's in chapter 17 again. In the book, The Gospel According to Spirit is beautiful because different spirits, through different mediums at Kardec's time, brought spiritist teachings talking about what it is, especially in the saying of the individual in the world. We just want to quote a beautiful excerpt here to wrap up this conversation, which when the spirit, a protector spirit actually, said, a sentiment of compassion must always animate the hearts of those who gather under the Lord's sight to implore the assistance of good spirits. Therefore, purify your heart. Do not let any mundane or futile thought linger in it. Lift up your spirit to those who you are calling, so that finding in you the proper dispositions, they may profusely sow the seed that shall germinate in your soul and produce within it the fruit of charity and justice. And the second part of it, they say, do not imagine, therefore, that in order to live in constant communication with us, to live in the Lord's sight, that you must put on the cilice and cover yourselves with ashes. No, meaning that you should sacrifice or punish yourself. No. They say no, and once more no. Be happy according to the needs of humanity, but may your happiness never hold a thought or commit any action that might offend God or anything that might cloud the face of those who love and guide you, meaning the guardian angels. So they are telling us, as Eduardo mentioned to us, that to be perfect is everything to do with being charitable. And charity encompasses the opposite of pride and selfishness. So, Eduardo, what would be your final comments to our listener regarding this journey of self-discovery?
Well, remembering that we are the same beings that have lived in all civilizations. So we were in the caves, we were in Babylon, in Rome, in Egypt, in India, and we are the same spirits of the barbarian time, the Middle Age, and we took part in the Crusades and the Inquisition and much more. And when we see these times in history so horrible, so violent, and we see our society nowadays, even if we still have violence, we cannot deny that we have evolved a lot. And if we have evolved a lot, there is no reason not to continue to evolve, not to continue this journey to the perfection that we will achieve because this is the law. And the self-discovery and self-improvement also are like a birth process. We can be painful sometimes when we don't know ourselves, and suddenly we realize that we had some tendencies that we were not aware of, and it can be painful sometimes, but and it can bring also a certain dose of insecurity or anxiety when we start doing this work of self-improvement. But anything in life that, progress is about taking risks and having the willingness to overcome whatever barrier is before us. And just to wrap up, in the book Missionaries of the Light that we are studying in the Inner Enlightenment Spiritual Society, there is a beautiful passage of the mentor Alexander when he says, humans have forgotten that Jesus taught virtue as the best way to exercise the soul, and they do not always remember that regarding the problem of inner improvement, it is not the shadow of the substance that must be corrected, but rather the substance itself. So this is in the Missionaries of Light, Chapter 2. So charity and virtue are the exercise, the workout of the soul. So as we work out to keep our bodies in good shape, let's just keep this exercise to keep our soul in a very good shape and building our happiness and our inner peace. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very much for the patience of all listeners. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. And right now we are going to stream some segments that were put together by Kardec Radio's team. And at the very end of the program, a prayer reaching out to all who have been writing to us, especially to our dear friend here, Dream Master, at the Blog Talk Radio chat room of Kardec Radio. And also we're going to answer 2 questions of the listeners at Kardec Radio.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners, and welcome back to the Spiritist Moment, enriching our minds with the Spiritist literature. I am your host, Kirsten Mello. This week we are giving continuation of our study on Part 3 of the Spirit's book, the Divine/Natural Laws. We are actually on the fourth law, the law of preservation. But this week we're going to be specifically discussing the law of self-preservation. Very interesting. Many of us have heard about it, discussed it, and here we wish to elaborate specifically on questions 702 and 703 of the Spirit's book, if you wish to accompany us. So we learn with the Spirits that each one of us is endowed with this law. Of course, we are endowed with all the laws that is written on our conscience, and the Spirits tell us, well, in some it is purely mechanical, in others it is rational. So this law, which is a law of nature, the law of self-preservation, what do they mean when they say purely mechanical? Well, in our earlier stages of evolution, when we are closer to the animal kingdom than at the level that we're at now, it's more out of reaction. But nowadays, as the Spirits tell us, our notion of the law of self-preservation is more rational. We're much more aware of it than in other stages in our lives of growth. So we have to also understand question 703 when they talk about the necessity of what is God's purpose in installing, if we can call it this way, the law of self-preservation. And they tell us, and we quote, all beings must collaborate in the designs of providence, end quote. What does that mean? Well, all of our incarnations or reincarnations are overseen by God and the good noble spirits, some more specifically in different ways. There are variations naturally. But there is a plan for each one of God's creatures, and so we must comply with that. So we must have this necessity within us, this law of self-preservation. But what is interesting, when we talk about the law of self-preservation, we can't help but also discuss suicide. Now, we are not going to get into a deep discussion about suicide today, although we do recommend you to go read the literature about it, to be more involved and more educated, to help those who may perhaps have thought about that particular issue. But here we wish to talk more about an area of suicide that's not commonly discussed or not commonly thought about, and that is the unconscious suicides, or more specifically from the book After the Storm, the chapter entitled Suicide. Joanna DeAngelis discuss a type of suicide that includes those who are addicted to sex and the indulgent in one or another vice, those who ingest high doses of tension, and those who poison themselves with hatred and destructive passions, the gluttons and the lazy, and those who cultivate pessimism and imaginary diseases. Now, this is interesting, dear listeners, because we wonder, well, how does being gluttonous, or rather, how does being lazy, how is that being suicidal? And what about those who cultivate pessimism or destructive passions, or who poison themselves with hatred? You may be thinking, Kirsten, there's no clinical data necessarily about that. Well, there is data out there. We know that negative emotions have a negative physiological effect. That science thus far is in agreement with us. But we know in Spiritism there's something called the vital fluid, and you can read more about it in the Medium's book and in the Spirit's book as well. But specifically on page 122 of the Spirit's book, they describe the vital fluid, and they talk about it, and they state that the vital fluid, also called the vital principle, is a modified form of the universal cosmic fluid, and the amount of vital fluid may become depleted and insufficient for maintaining life. So we know that this vital fluid, also called the vital principle, is something that each one of us has. As long as we are incarnated in this physical body, we have this vital fluid, and when we pass away, it goes back into the universe according to the literature, the Spiritist literature. So what does this tell us? Well, when we have these behaviors, as Joanna DeAngelis points out, when she talks about high doses of tension or being lazy, cultivating pessimism, this actually drains this vital fluid, this vital energy principle within us, because we do not utilize it or cultivate it. And within the Spiritist literature, it also tells us that we need to renew this fluid by positive acts. And oftentimes there are others that have more vital fluid or more vital principle within them. They have this great energetic vitality, and oftentimes through their magnetism, they are able to offer their vital fluid or vital principle to others in assistance. And many times we've seen this when people are on the brink of death and they go either to give passes or to say a prayer with someone, and they are almost able to give someone a spiritual, literally a boost. So, dear friends, our take-home message today, let us be more aligned with the law of self-preservation by working on these not so known or perhaps not so talked about vices that actually can drain our vital fluid and actually can be considered an unconscious suicide if we don't watch ourselves. And we don't say this to be an accusatory or to throw stones or to judge, but just to make ourselves more aware. Let us try to be less pessimistic, more positive, more kind, and more balanced, always utilizing the great tool of prayer to tune our minds into our spirit mentors and, of course, our divine creator. And as always, friends, we wish you many blessings. Until next time.
Dear listener, I'm sure you have already heard of near-death experiences, haven't you? Well, still bringing our focus on the universal truths of Spiritism, let's keep in mind that by the time Allan Kardec started his studies, the mediumistic phenomena were spread worldwide through the then famous turning tables, backed up by many other kinds of mediums and their particular ways of conveying the Spirit's knowledge to us. We are picking up on the near-death experiences, so we can trace a parallel between what Allan Kardec did and our scientists do today. Not only one scientist has tackled the point that hundreds of accounts have been recorded, showing painstakingly that there is something to it. The accounts stem from out-of-body experiences to those called shared experiences, in which people other than those who are in hospitals or sick also take part in a way or another. What scientists do not doubt nowadays is that the phenomenon is there, exists. The features are generally universal, with, of course, some differences due to cultural, religious, or social background, just like by the time of Allan Kardec. The chance that it can be an illusion has been weakened since, in these studies, they conduct the researches on people that had cardiac arrest, which means that the heart and brain have stopped. Illusions, at least for the time being, come from a brain. So the person's brain must be working in order to suffer illusions. Dr. Sam Parnia is one of the leading physicians that is carrying on experiments in this field with, according to him, the most skeptical approach possible. He is from the University of Southampton and is a leading physician, as we said, and a leading research in this field nowadays. He says that the accounts can reach a number of thousands of them. He himself has collected over 500. He also says that the experiences match in most of the cases, and many doctors confirm the information that patients claim to have had while dead. But now I'd like your close attention to this. He says the subjective experiences that the accounts bring cannot be touched by him because he cannot state any opinion in that field. Well, Dr. Sam Parnia, as many other scientists that bravely push themselves to these kind of challenging researches, usually have to face a heavy hand of the paradigm we live in. Listen to Dr. Parnia speak in this small excerpt.
And as I said now, these experiences have been described from all over the world. The core features seem to be similar, and they've also been studied in small children to a limited extent. I have to say that this is not a subject that if you do a PubMed search, you get sort of 10,000 things coming out. Even through these years with all the media and stuff. Still, you have to be kind of brave to get involved in it because people look down at you a little bit sometimes, unfortunately.
Well, there you go, my friend. Let's be grateful to all these scientists that today boldly try to cross the barriers that strongly hold us back, sometimes causing many serious works to fail. That is why we have to thank Professor Revile, Allan Kardec's real name, so much. He not only saw how universal the phenomena were, but he took a step forward. He bravely dived into the messages that the phenomenon brought up to his analysis, the subjective and intellectual part of the phenomenon. And here the genius of this great man started coming to light. Yes, because Allan Kardec was not only a skeptical character, he also was a great philosophical thinker and had a deeply religious heart. So he was at the same time Roman, Greek, and Jewish. As we were saying, he went deep into the messages that came from the phenomena that for the first time in title itself, the phenomena said, "We are the spirits." But not being strictly limited to the physical phenomena and going forward to check the intellectual phenomena, Allan Kardec was able to put together an amazing work that later on would widely be known as Spiritism, an entire fantastic set of universal principles that can be checked by anyone that is not held up by dogmas or prejudice. He did what scientists today do when they invest in something that, although may not be apparent, can be a universal principle that is suitable in the various situations of life throughout the ages. Still in the amazing introduction of the Gospel according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec, wraps it up. Quote, "The force of Spiritism, as well as the cause of its rapid spread, resides in this universal teaching, where the word of one solitary person, even with the help of the press, would take centuries to become known by all. Millions of voices are making themselves heard simultaneously in every corner of this planet. All are proclaiming the same principles and transmitting them on all levels, from the scholarly down to the most ignorant, in order that no one be disinherited." Later on, he completes, quote, "Only one sure guarantee exists for spirit teachings. This is the concordance that exists between revelations, which have been received spontaneously by a large number of mediums not known to each other and located in different places." Thank you so much, Professor Revile. Thank you so much, listener.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find this CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
And now we return to our program.
Good morning, dear Kardec Radio listener. Welcome to our segment, Spiritism in Your Life. Today we're going to spend a few minutes discussing about a very interesting topic, which is depression in adolescence. It is interesting because for many years people thought that kids and teenagers wouldn't get depressed. But nowadays we know not only teenagers get depressed, but actually the prevalence is fairly high. Recent studies show that up to 8% of adolescents are depressed. However, the number is probably higher because depression in adolescents is underdiagnosed because the symptoms sometimes are very, very difficult to recognize. In adults, we would say that the typical overwhelming sadness will be a very characteristic symptom of depression. But adolescents, they can have a number of other symptoms that include irritability, difficulties at school, changes in sleep habits, and many others. From a medical, scientific point of view, the exact cause of depression is unknown. And unfortunately, depression in adolescents may be associated with many other problems that include abuse of alcohol and other substances, disruptive behavior disorders, physical sexual abuse, trauma, and others. And when we are talking about depression, we are not referring to occasional sadness and irritability that's very common in teenagers, but particular to these mood changes that are persistent and represent an impairment on the ability of the teenager to sustain a normal life. Typically, major depression will include at least 5 of the symptoms listed. Number 1, depressed or irritable mood for most of the day, nearly every day. Number 2, markedly diminished interest or pleasure in almost all activities. Number 3, change in appetite or weight. Number 4, insomnia or excessive sleep. Number 5, talking or moving more slowly or quickly than normal. Number 6, fatigue or loss of energy. Number 7, feelings of worthlessness or guilt. Number 8, difficulty concentrating or making decisions. And number 9, recurring thoughts of death or suicide. Based on this sometimes paradoxical symptoms, you can start to see now why is it so difficult sometimes to make a diagnosis of depression in an adolescent unless you know him or her really well. Dear listener, there are 2 important messages that we want to leave with you today. First is that we have to keep an eye on our kids because very often they're showing clear signs of depression to us and we can't see it. Talk to them. Get closer and closer. Try to reach them up to a point that you can start to understand what's going on in their minds, and then we can seek help. And the second message, which is even more important, is that depression is treatable, both from a medical point of view and a spiritual point of view. Spiritism can help clarify to us a lot of these changes that happen during adolescence and some of the reasons why is it fairly common to see adolescents with major depressive disorder. The great medium Divaldo Franco once said, "Childhood and adolescence are, thus, transitional stages, when resources should be employed to work upon the intellect and moral human being so as to empower him to conquer the infinite. As organic maturation occurs, often under prescriptive needs arising from experiences of previous lives, the phenomenon presents itself as a character of the spiritual being. Thanks to such circumstance, the transition can be calm and positive, or harrowing and disturbing. Highly relevant in this phase is the presence of love and discipline with a view to future potential. Here lies the importance of human childhood as the longest among the animals. It is that time when we set out the lessons that should guide our existence through development. The teenager develops the dormant imprints of the being, which will be expressed according to environmental, familial, educational, and social factors." So as you can see from the words of Divaldo Franco, Spiritism brings a new understanding of this transition by incorporating the understanding that we are spirits, eternal spirits. When you recognize signs of depression, first thing you need to do is to learn about it. Educate yourself about what is depression. Try to connect to the person. Try to talk to them. That's the very first step. The second step, seek medical help. And most importantly, Spiritism can offer you anti-depression help kit as Dr. Vanessa Anceloni once wrote in the Spiritist magazine, number 5 from December 2008. The Spiritist therapy encompasses 7 tools that could be effective in either prevention and or treatment of depression. Number 1 is inner transformation. Number 2 is the use of therapeutic visualizations. Number 3, prayer. Number 4, passes. Number 5 is the gospel at home, or the God at home meeting. Number 6, intelligent sleep. And number 7, desobsession. All of this can be freely accessed in any Spiritist center close to you. So keep in mind that Spiritism has a lot to offer in order to help us cope with depression. As our final message to you, remember that depression is treatable and we need to seek help. And Spiritism is here to help you too. But the most important thing you can do is remember that we need to connect to God, always. Thank you, my friends, and may God bless us.
Welcome to our Youth Education in Spiritism with Kardec Radio. I am Bernadette Leal, and I'll be spending a few minutes with you, inspiring to bring spiritual awareness and Spiritist teachings to our youth, parents, and educators. Today, we will continue talking about joy, and we will answer the following question. How can I be joyful during tough times? Being joyful is a choice, and it is possible to find joy during tough times in our lives, but it definitely requires some work. Consistent joy is like a muscle that needs to be exercised every day to become stronger. Many of us can relate to difficult moments in which we were feeling down, discouraged, sad, and stressed. In certain occasions, we felt strong and were able to handle whatever situation we were facing, but in other times, we felt like giving up, weak, and joy seemed to be impossible, something very far from the reality we were living. Let's reflect upon those times when we felt weak and discouraged. Picture yourself in a boxing ring, ready to fight your opponent and win the match. Now, let's have the following analogy. The boxing ring is life. The opponent is your challenges and hardships. The fight is what you have to do to protect yourself and handle your struggles, and winning represents joy. So, when we face challenges and begin to feel discouraged and negative, we are actually putting our guard down and allowing the opponent to hit us. Therefore, we will lose the match, with a great risk of getting badly hurt. If we were in a real-life situation of someone trying to punch us, we would do our best to protect and defending ourselves, right? And the reason is because we have this natural instinct of self-preservation. Now, why can we do the same and apply our self-preservation nature when it comes to how we choose to handle our life challenges? Don't we know that too much worry, stress, and negative feelings affect us and can harm our mental and physical health? So, if we are aware of it, then why don't we take action? And the reason is because it requires work, a type of work that invites us to look at ourselves and change how we act. We may not have control over some situations that happen around us, but we have control on how we react. When life is striking us, we need to fight with the right weapons, not violent ones, but weapons of joy, like prayer, optimism, harmony, positive energy, meditation, understanding, and faith. One mistake we make is to empower the problem. Yes, we feed and dwell on it, thinking negatively. And as we do that, we begin to feel powerless, blocking any signs of joy. It is just like the shadow of a little mouse on the wall. Depending on the distance and the position of the light, the reflection of the mouse can make it look huge and scary, when it actually is much smaller and less frightening than it appears. We keep looking at the shadow and not the light. This behavior also shows a lack of faith. We forget that God is bigger and more powerful than any issue. Children and male teenagers have the same problem. When they are facing any challenges, they struggle handling them, making of the problem bigger than it really is, creating mental monsters in their heads, feeling powerless and overreacting. So, it is our job to help our children by teaching them tools to handle their challenges, including using the weapons of joy we just mentioned. When my teenage daughter comes to me very stressed, saying she has a problem, I usually smile and tell her, "Good. If you're telling me you have a problem, it is already a positive thing, because problem is an obstacle or challenge that has a resolution," even though she may not like the resolution. So, when you say you have a problem, it means that there is already a solution. We just have to do some work and find it. I also remind her of some of her past challenges in her life and how she overcame and solved many of her problems. In fact, dear friends, if we all look at our past experiences, we will see how many of those tough times in our lives were actually blessings that transformed us into better and stronger people. The Spiritist teachings explain how challenges and pain help us to grow and progress spiritually. Therefore, this is a pretty good reason to be joyful. Spiritism also teaches us how our down moments can spiritually affect us by attracting and connecting with low and suffering spirits. Once we have this awareness, it is imperative to find the will and energy to snap out of it. Otherwise, we will be blocking the joy, not allowing the light to shine upon us. Spiritism reminds us that there are pains that are self-inflicted. In other words, we create them. Chapter 5 of the Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec says, "In most cases, men and women are the architects of their own troubles. Yet, rather than admit this fact, they usually find easier and less humiliating to their egos to blame their troubles on fate, God, bad luck, or even on an unlucky star. However, this unlucky star is actually no more than their own carelessness." A beautiful example of joy is Paul the Apostle, who had many trials in his life. He was in prison, beaten, shipwrecked, endangered, suffered sleep deprivation, hungry, and much more. And still, he was joyful. Even when he was in prison, he found the opportunity to share the gospel with others and the guards, and wrote inspiring letters which brought to him a lot of joy. His faith in God was beyond any hardships. As Robert Schuller said, "Joy is not the absence of suffering. It is the presence of God." Chico Xavier, a renowned Brazilian medium, found himself one day with great sadness and feeling exhausted. He then prayed to his spiritual mentor, Emmanuel, to help him and alleviate his pain. His mentor appeared to him and explained that everything passes. In other words, all our trials and challenges are temporary. Whatever struggle we are dealing will pass. So let's keep that in mind. Remember, our pain will not last forever, and things will get better as we put some effort into it and choose to look at the problem from a different perspective. As in 2 Corinthians 4:18, Paul wrote, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." Kardec Radio listeners, let's choose joy in life, knowing that it is possible to be joyful even during hard times. But we should understand that some of our trials bring us very wise lessons that help our evolution. We should expand our view by looking at a bigger picture when we are dealing with life challenges, and not act like hens with our heads down packing the corn. Instead, we should do our best to be like eagles that soar in the skies with a wider view and expand our horizons. Thanks for listening to Yes, and if you have any questions that would like us to answer here, please email them to Kardec@KardecRadio.com.
Dear listener, most beautiful segments by Kardec Radio's team. We are very joyful and thankful to each of their efforts. And by the way, if you have any ideas, suggestion of new segments that are in need to be brought to Kardec Radio, just write to us at KardecRadio.com. We have a contact form, just send it to us, and we are open. We always receive so many beautiful suggestions, feedback, and that's the reason why it's growing more than we could ever imagine. And more people are willing to be joining forces with the proposal of Kardec Radio, because actually love is about nourishment, and Kardec Radio is here to nourish our souls. Right now, it's that moment, every show, at the very end, a moment in which we would like to pray. And we invite you right now. We had a friend here previously at Kardec Radio's chat room, Dream Master. We don't know the name of the person. It doesn't matter. We're going to pray for that person as well as everybody else whom in the world today are struggling, especially in regard to low self-esteem. It's a very difficult time when people are not feeling good about themselves, and that can be really an open door to obsession, spirit attachment. So prayer is a great mechanism to really recuperate the forces, the strength inside of us, and help one another as well. So how about if now we visualize flowers, and let us hand these flowers with healing power, their perfume, as we smell the perfume of the flowers. They bring to all of us this healing therapeutic content that goes through our minds and soothes our being, envelops our whole body. The color of each petal of the flowers radiates healing light, enveloping us. As it touches our head, it reminds us of our nature. We're children of God. Let us dedicate these flowers also to the friend who was at Kardec Radio's chat room, Dream Master. and to all the people in our planet who are experiencing some form of low self-esteem. May they receive these flowers of healing as signature of God, reminding them of their true nature, immortal children of our dear Father, Mother God. Dear, loving Father, Mother of our lives, first and foremost, at this very moment, humbled by knowing that we have a lot to accomplish, and yet you don't judge us and you love us unconditionally. So we thank you. Thank you for your mercy and your providence. Thank you for assigning a loving guardian angel to guide, to inspire, and protect us, to help us improve ourselves as we get to know of our limitations and, most importantly, our unknown potential to be unfolded in good deeds, selfless actions. At this very moment, dear Father, we ask you, please multiply the crumbs of our wishes of joy to all those brothers and sisters of others whom in the world are suffering for not accepting themselves and for not seeing their true connection with you. May the cherishing of this religiosity inside of us draw us closer to you and to each person in our lives. May all of our homes receive this shower of blessings, cleansing them, protecting them. And we thank you also for the blessings, for the opportunity and the honor, trusting us as we reach out to others in your name, with your permission. And so be it. Dear listener, as you are there, we wish you that this week is filled with blessings, because next week we're going to have a most intriguing program. It's all about 30 years among the dead. We will be here with Dr. Ona Graham, who is a psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, and has become a spiritist apprentice. She will be here with us discussing a most intriguing book, 30 Years Among the Dead, written by the beloved Dr. Carl Wickland, in which we will discuss psychiatric care and the need of embracing the reality of the spirit. A most important program for all of us, as mental health care in the world is in urgent need of transformation to really help heal and reach out to those who are being challenged by mental disorders. For now, we wish you lots of blessings with Kardec Radio, always here to nourish your soul.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.